I think AI can help a lot of creatives too. I think if you think about it, like being having writer's block could be a thing of the past.
True.
It could be a thing of the past.
Yeah, I believe it's a tool. Yeah,
it's a tool. Yeah, I mean, listen, you get stuck in a second verse. ChatGPT is not going to write it for you, but it may give you the same thesaurus feeling. Where okay, I got a little inspiration because I wanted to write a verse about blah 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 and blah blah blah, and you go deep, and then now all of a sudden you're in that mode.
Go away. So this AI period that we've just now become accustomed to.
Honestly, man, I believe AI is a tool. I don't think it has to be a way of life, or it doesn't have to be the end of what we do. I think it's a tool that can be used for good. I also feel, which is kind of a thing I've been saying to my buddies, that AI is going to help usher in a new era of love for real players and real singers and real musicians.
Tools, right? I mean, AI is a tool. If you think you're going to keep the human element or can out of music, it's never going to happen. I don't care who you are. You can get close, but again, it's close but no cigar. When you look at like the Beatles, like old footage of the Beatles and old footage of Michael, it's like Elvis Presley, people were like literally crying, like watching him on the stage. And that's really because of just the power and the impact of the music and how it's being transferred and connected and how it's being experienced. Music is, we say, the divine language. And, AI I think is great as just have on the utility belt.
I just see it as AI, to me, is a tool, just like back in the day, everybody thought that when drum machines came around, drum machines was going to take over drumming.
Right.
And as we can see, drummers are at a force, and drummers can do more than AI. Now, when it comes to recording and a person being able to type in AI, I would like Trev Lawrence. I would like Trev Lawrence sound, as Trevor Lawrence would play Latin percussion on this record.
Yes, I use AI. Yes, I use AI. I do think that it is a tool. And the other thing I think, Trevor, is that it's not going anywhere.
Right.
The thing is I was taught only worry about things that you can control, right? And for me, I can't control AI. I can't stop. I can go out in front of OpenAI and with a picket sign and say, stop AI. That's not going to do anything. They're a force, okay? They have billions of dollars behind them, and it's an industry now. It's not just one company.
And so AI is a tool that, Bash is using it. I haven't used it in any musical sense yet. The only thing I used AI for was just some artwork for a single that I dropped.
Sure.
That was it. But it's a tool and will continue to evolve, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But man, when any of us play a shaker, it feels a certain way that just AI cannot duplicate. It's a simple instrument. It's just one little egg, even. Just to start with an egg.
Right.
It can't really be duplicated in the way that the musicality that we bring to it.
Yeah.
In music, I'll probably use it, as much as I use AI or ChatGPT in daily life. It is definitely an amazing tool, and we have to wrap our head around it and use it as a tool, not as a supplement for our own creativity.
Right.
Or as a replacement for our own creativity, but as a supplement to our own creativity, just like a drum machine, So when we first started working with drum machines, every drummer's like, "Oh my God, I'm out of a job," and that's
prompting. In addition, I believe it works as a tool. It's great for reimagining old ideas you may have had sitting around, and it makes them new. You can add to them just as demos, as things to convey your idea and realize your idea. I think in that way, it's amazing. But people that just want to make a career off of fully just prompting and sitting around and having no musical anything, that's not even recognized by the registration. Full AI is not recognized.
Yeah, so but it's still open.
Partial.
It's still open.
Well, we haven't. It's still getting worked on, man, because the labels are trying to figure out a place on. They're trying to get in there and get the money from it. That's
what you got to do. You got to find a tool that'll allow you to get what it is that you need to get done. And I think AI is a viable component for that. But it's not everything. It is not the vision. It's just a part of the vision.
Yeah, and it's definitely not something that anybody I know or anybody that comes on this show would advocate as far as plagiarism and all that. You know, people look at it on one side. Yeah, it's like we're looking at it as a tool. All that negative stuff, it doesn't even cross anybody's mind that's a real creative, because you're not you got your own ideas. You're just using it to enhance stuff and to help the output.
Acquires.
I mean, we all saw what happened with auto-tune, right? When auto-tune first came out, people were like, thank Jesus, I don't have to sing or write no more. No, it's a tool, bro. Relax.
Right.
You still have to write something. You still have to have a vocal, some sort of like performance, right? And I think that we saw the crash and the calamity of people just using it as just like an autopilot. It's not autopilot, it's auto-tune. It means you have to actually do something, right? The same thing with AI. AI is...
Well, just similarly to what you said, like throughout history, throughout the decades, there have been advances in technology that initially we were very afraid of and we were nervous about. You know, we're two drummers still sitting here today who have made amazing careers for ourselves, despite there being drum machines, despite there being all of these other different things. You know, we found new mediums to even break through and make people interested in learning the craft, learning drums.
There's nothing to really be scared of, because when you make something with AI, it doesn't automatically become the master. It's just at that moment, it's no different than MIDI. It's no different than anything. It's about what you do with it after that. So if you do it and then you get somebody to chart it out and then you go in with the cats and y'all cut it, well, there it was just
that is.
Yeah, it might have helped you do a new section, whatever, but it's not the record. You know, the record is the people. So I don't think there's any cause to be alarmed. You being one of the ones that are doing it, everybody I interview that's really in the mix never has a problem. It's only the people that really never have done anything before AI that have all this stuff to say. I mean,
that, man. But you know what I've learned is, if you don't be a part of the evolution, you will get left behind. And I refuse to be left behind. And past music, man, I've been using AI, you know, dealing with music. But past music, everything that it's doing now, that I've like just learned some new stuff, some new apps from Rants 1500. And how it's organizing and putting everything together, man. Like it's like you're creating an app.
Yeah.
You know, you're creating apps and doing stuff. It's doing everything for you. It's making it easier. And that's what technology is. And I'm with it.
AI today, 20 years from now, AI is going to be, you know, run of the mill, and it's going to be something else. And if every time something new comes along, we feel like we got to go at arms with it, as opposed to using it as a tool to help us evolve, it's an opportunity for us to evolve. Now, there are some things that I don't agree with. I don't agree with, you know, the AI artists in, you know, how AI can make music and use that as a way of, you know, taking money out of artists' mouths and off of our food off of our tables.
We have no choice now. It's happening. So I think we're going to have to, at some point, use it to our advantage, because everybody else is going to be using it. You know, it's almost like you have to follow the trend some kind of way. We could still be true to ourselves. We've studied since we were kids playing music. You know, we put the 10,000 hours in and everything. This AI thing just comes in and says, I could do what you've been doing all your life in 5 minutes, you know? So I think, and I'm gonna just be, you know, play the devil's advocate here. I think.
Well, I call it amplified intelligence. It's not. I don't call it artificial. I call it amplified intelligence, because it just amplifies things. You know, it just amplifies whatever you would be doing. I mean, you think about it, we've been, you know, hey, it's been around for a long time. And I can't get in the car. I can go somewhere that I know I've been before, and I still pull out the GPS.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, like it's been around. You know, every time we do something quicker than we would normally do it, it's AI. It's been there. It's been there the whole time.
I agree with that. But for me, it's more so about making it useful for you and using it as a tool. To help your brand, to help your process. And like that's where I'm at with it. So like, for example, like Moises. I use Moises. I've been using Moises for years to get stems and, you know, as a practice tool also, or if I'm programming. Even if I'm programming sounds for, you know, the module for a show for triggers. I've used it.
There's aspects of that AI is just not going to be able to do. So what I'm hoping is that we, like in the case you mentioned, that, you know, we've gone to one extreme only to find it as a tool and find that middle ground. I'm hoping that before before too long that AI can be seen as being that kind of tool and not, again, a replacement for songwriting, replacement for what it is that allows for us as human beings to feel something and be able to determine good, better, best.
Right.
It's becoming harder because the lines are blurred by, first of all, there's just so much stuff out there.
Yeah. Cannot do that. AI cannot make you a legendary percussive genius such as yourself. AI is not going to do that. They need you for that. They need me to be that. So in the future, these skills that we have will be even more appreciated as a younger generation will not know how to, all they know is drag and drop. All they know is tell AI play this piano part. But when it comes down to really doing it, sitting in a room with people, the thing that human beings feel, AI is not threatening that at all. And maybe one day there'll be a robot band on stage that plays all the Herbie Hancock parts.
In the 60s, you're not going to go and top them with an AI record. You're not going to top, what we've done, lyrically with an AI record. You can just gaslight people into thinking that you're a producer and a composer by letting AI do everything for you. Anybody can do that. And the funny thing is, it's going to show because of the AI footprint. Everybody can hear the same thing. You can see, like when you look at AI videos, you can see the fakeness in them. You can see where they don't have it right. It's jittery and it's artificial, basically.
Yeah, our bro Warren Campbell said something too when he was on. It made a lot of sense. It's like, you can always hear the limiter and the mastering section on the AI.
Exists. There's an identification of things that are AI. I know people have been talking about that more, like an organic food versus not, or labels, things like that.
Yeah.
And I can't fault anyone where if they're armed with the knowledge of like, this is AI, this isn't, and that for some reason they prefer the AI product, that's none of my business. I mean, to me, that would be surprising. But also, I feel like I'm assuming and believing that most people would prefer the human thing.
Anyway, but once again, AI can't do anything until we do it first.
Right. And it's not going to change you. It's not going to, it's not those that do deal with it, because I definitely, deal with it, and I'm very interested in it. I did a full AI album like 2 years ago, but it doesn't change anything that we already do or know. It's just another thing. Right. So it's just like certain samplers or certain, whatever. It's like, man, use it or not. It's not the end of anything, and what's starting to happen now is the veil is starting to be lifted. And people are starting to come out and say, well, actually, there is no such thing as ethical AIs.
Embrace it. I mean, for me, let me tell you, I use AI. I use it for a few things. I use it, Trevor, I'm always cutting acoustic records, but I don't have the type of studio where I can separate the piano from the drums. So I got to use AI to kill the drums. Or, okay, let me get something else. Jason, my guy Jason, we wrote a love song. And I'm like, man, I love this song for women, but we don't have a demo, and it's hard to keep hearing this buff man with this woman's song. So we put it through AI, you know what I'm saying?
Right, that's right. And that's great use case. Yeah,
it's unbelievable, and we're looking at it as it's just another tool. But how do you see it in regards to music? We can start with you, Warren.
I'll put it to you this way. A lot of people are using it. I just got a couple songs in a little while ago, and they use AI to help them write the songs. And as a purist, I feel like an old man, because immediately when they sent me the song, it sent it to me through the Suno app. So I was turned off by that first.
First mistake.
Oh yeah.
First mistake.
That's a problem. Download.
Yeah.
So AI, artificial intelligence, obviously the manipulation of data and the is a lot more advanced, but I'm of the ilk is that you can't make a silk's purse out of a sow's ear. Right. You still have to give it the right information, the right input, and if you give it great input, AI comes up with some amazing things.
Yeah.
But the idea is you have to give it some type of input, and the better the input, the better the outcome. So you have to embrace technology.
About Jahi, I mean, even though it samples, it can still be creative and a whole different thing. With the AI thing, I think people sometimes cheap it out, and they didn't, because in order for that to happen, you still have to have some musical sensibility. And so, these people that don't do music, it's like, I've heard recently of, people that work in the ad agencies that are like the suits, and then they put out a directive to try to get a spot done, and then they end up just doing it with AI. It's like, dude, it's not,
I tell you, I've heard some of those on TV when I was watching
like CNN, and all of a sudden this commercial comes on. I was like, that's AI.
It's record. So I feel like the AI it's like making presets.
Right. Exactly.
So the presets, it's like, I don't feel like people are getting individualized mixes.
Right.
With character.
Yeah.
So it's but I do feel like the AI is helping speed up the work process on certain things. So certain things I'm still tapping in, and I'm like, okay, I can see the need to that, and then other things like I don't know yet.
Everybody to the punch, because we still over here holding on, hoping that AI ain't what we know AI really is.
Well, I'm glad you have that sentiment, because I think Timbaland, the thing about what Timbaland's doing, I think people are tripping out that it's an actual artist. Like, that side of it is still kind of tripping. But I'm gonna tell you, I did a whole full AI album a year and a half ago, and I was just trying to mark the time.
And it was AI generated. And when I tell you, I was like, oh wow, this is crazy. So look, Terminator wasn't a movie. Be ready. Everything that happens in movies happens in real life, right? Star Trek.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Those things they were talking on cell phone.
Yeah.
So I think we just have to beware. Like, I want to look. I was chopping some records here. I want to chop my own records. I don't want to get AI generated chops or AI generated songs to chop. I want to chop the art. The beauty in that is doing it yourself. So I think that we have to be really careful.
So I don't even think that AI, it's past the beginning stages now, but even in the beginning stages, it was still over at that point. And I think that AI is not going to make it any easier. It's just because people want convenience. They want convenience, and they want whatever is going to be easy for them. And all of these devices are making it easier. You could argue and say, well, it's advanced this and advanced that. What? I can't even remember phone numbers anymore. If I don't look at my phone, before all of this stuff happened, I could remember hundreds of them.
Is about. And I think that's the important thing to remember here, because on a show a while back, I did some research, and they've been doing these, holographic AI concerts all around China and filling up arenas and all that kind of stuff. But I think that's people being enamored with the fact that it can happen. I don't think it's because it's great, right? Now, we saw the influx of K-pop coming to the United States and dominating, the last 5-7 years. And we know that they use a lot of AI with a lot of stuff. And our dear friend who's been on the show, Mark Batson, worked with the first deaf K-pop group, and that could only been possible through AI. But I feel like generally you're right. No one wants to go see an AI, what's the artist? Down on it, movies especially. But what's your view on AI? And as a tool, what's your view on AI now as a enhancement to our workflow? Because obviously you come from when things were evolving. So what do you feel about that?
I love it, man. I love it. I'm not scared of it. It's a tool. It's going to enhance and make our jobs in a way, easier. It's a tool. Like I said, it needs to be regulated. Yes, like everything else, but it's a learned behavior. It has to be injected with something that we create. The humans are, sure, maybe the middleman might lose a job and everything, but to me, it's a tool. From everything that I've seen, I think it's an incredible tool.